So if you're not familiar, at the weekend in Australia was the Guilds in Painting competition, and miniature painting goat and all-round amazing and nice human being Dave Colwell brought this piece, which is just stunning, spectacular, and won Best in Show, thoroughly deserved in my opinion. And one of the things that we've been talking about is how a lot of the incredible reflections in the armour that he's painted in here were referenced, potentially based on references generated in Blender. And while I can't help you paint like Dave, he is a bit of a one-of-a-kind in that regard, I can show you how to generate some references that you can use in your own work. So that's what we're going to be covering in this short video. I hope you like it, and if you like more of these short format rapid-fire help guides, just let us know and we'll keep making them. Before we start, make sure you download the Blender file that I've created for this guide that'll help you through it. It will be in the video description. Let's dive into it. So the first thing you're going to want to do is head to blender.org and download Blender 4.2 LTS. That's the new version, that's the one that I've based this tutorial on. Hit download, it'll download the file, you can then install it. I'll then head on over to Blender. So once you're in Blender, make sure you just open the file and this GG Blender template is the one that you want. The only thing that I would recommend you do, there's a detailed tutorial on our YouTube, but the thing that would be beneficial that I'm not going to cover is just how to move around. As soon as you can move around the camera, you'll find things a little bit easier. So just to make you aware of that. So this is the software, and I have basically created a load of materials, or objects rather, that will be useful for you for generating NMM references. So the one that's default is this Space Marine shoulder pad with trim that I've just put in as standard, and you can see here that I can toggle the visibility of this on and off with this little eye icon on the right hand side. So if I click this, it'll disappear, click again, it appears. The camera icon is for whether it will render, and so if you're deselecting the eye, make sure you also deselect the camera, otherwise you'll get very confused when it comes to references. So just to show you quickly, there's things like rondels, a shield, shoulder pad without trim, with trim, I did like a sword blade, a torso, and these are really just meant to be more simplistic references of certain objects that you'll find in miniature painting. But as well, I've included some of the basic primitives that you'd expect to find in painting. So there is a cone, there is a cube, which I've added a slight bevel to, there is a cylinder, and there is a sphere, which will basically be the references that we'll be building off. So that's all you need to know. In this example, I'm just going to do the Space Marine shoulder pad with trim because it's a good one to use. So that's toggled on, the eye icon's on, the camera icon's on. I am ready to go. The camera and the sun we'll get to in 1 second, but for now we need to think about the environment that we are essentially reflecting to generate our references. And I've already chosen one, but I'm going to show you how to change it. So the first place you're going to need to go is a place to find what's called a HDRI file. So I go to HDRI Haven, other HDRI sources are available, and basically you're going to want to find a HDRI that you like the look of. So if you're doing like a very green scene, this French type garden is a nice example. You can download the HDRI map, and that's what we're going to use. Now, I've included one for this tutorial, which is from HDRI Haven, which I think is called Resting Place, and that's what I'm using in this example. So once you have the HDRI that you want to use on the right-hand side of Blender, you're going to go to this button that says World. You're going to click there, and it's using Resting Place 4K, and this will basically, it may be in this state when you first find it, hit this down arrow icon, and it will bring up the Resting Place detail. If you want to change this, just hit Open Image, it'll open this panel and you can select a new HDRI file. They are hate.hdr files. You can use images for this, but it is trickier. I may do another tutorial in future on how to generate your own HDRI images because that's useful to know. So this is in, and you may be wondering, well, why can't I see this in the background? And that's because I find it a little distracting, so I've toggled it off by default. If you want to see it, what you can do is in the render panel, which is this little camera icon, you can click in there, and there is a submenu called Film, and Transparent is what I've ticked by default. If you untick it, you can see the background, and isn't it wonderful? I don't find it useful, so I've ticked it transparent, then I don't have to see it. Anyway, going back into the world reference, I've included these little transformation nodes. So you can essentially change the background. And the only one you're probably going to want to use with a HDRI is rotation. So if I move this Z-axis, you can see that the rotation of the reference in the reflection changes. You may want to play with this to find something that you think is cool, and that's perfectly fine, but that's how you change that. Now, in terms of obviously generating your reference image, the camera's kind of critical. So on the right hand side, you'll see that there's camera icon, which is the camera view. I've just set up the camera straight on, but you can change this to be whatever you want it to be. And that's obviously going to be the main angle that you want to generate your reference for. So you can click this lock icon, and that's going to lock however I change this view to the camera position, so I can make it there, and I'm reasonably happy with that. And so once I unlock that, if I move the camera stays where it is. This is a little bit of a thing you're going to learn about Blender, but that's essentially how it works. So I've set up my object, I've set up the HDRI image I want to use, and if I want to generate a reference image, I'm just going to hit F12 or hit render image, and it's going to generate me my reference. Really nice, really simple, does the job. You may want to change a few of these parameters. One is the sun. So I've included a sun because sometimes you can see here there's a bright spot for the sun and a bright spot for the HDRI sun. Because sometimes I know a lot of miniature painters like to use their own kind of preset main brightness. So if you want to change that, here's the sun. You can toggle it on and off just like you can other items, or you can rotate the sun. You'll see that as I move this, the main brightness does change on the image. So maybe I wanted it front lit. I can still do that and have the wider HDRI image. So I've included that just to give you a bit more flexibility and freedom in terms of how you play with the highlight placement. The last thing that I want to talk about is the roughness of the material. And so this is you could argue a fairly polished steel at the moment, and you may not want that. If you want to change it, it's really easy. You're just going to click on the item. You're going to go to the material tab, which is here on the right hand side. And here's all the material properties. And one of them you'll see is called roughness. If I put this down to 0, it basically becomes a perfect mirror. And if I put it all the way up to 1, it's this perfect matte useless thing. And so you're just going to want to play with this to find a brightness that roughness that you like. And you see it basically blurs it. That's all that roughness does. So you can play with that this way. By default, I've set it to 0.25. I think that's a good roughness to use. And that's good for generating a lot of your references and things like that. And because this is a unified material, if I change it for 1, it will be changed for all of them. So just make sure that be aware that when you change this, you are changing this for every material within the set. And some people may find that useful, some people may not, but I just wanted to let people know why that was happening. So that is it. With this, you can generate NMM references to your heart's content. I hope you found this useful. And if you've liked this video, make sure you give us a like and a subscribe. Thank you very much.